Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. And a big happy Thanksgiving to all you guys here in the United States. Hope you guys enjoy your day with your families or whoever you spend time with. So for today, I'm going to go over this great email that was sent from a subscriber. That's from a guy, he's in his mid-30s. And let me tell you, his story is a perfect example of the saying, that which does not kill you makes you stronger. And how this guy definitely has had his share of disappointments in life, roadblocks, heartache, and all that. And yet he still is going strong. And after all that, is still a very good man. You're going to see multiple fronts dealing with family, a girlfriend, all that, and still this guy keeps going strong. The type of guy that all you guys, I think all guys should be. A strong man, a leader, all that. And I'll admit, it's a little tricky to describe all of it in this intro here. So I'm just going to let you guys go. Just trust me on this. It's a good story here. And pay attention and listen to it. I think you will enjoy it. Particularly, this is a good one for Thanksgiving Day and kicking off the holiday season. So it starts off, says here, hello SSM. I've recently stumbled across you in my feed and have truly been enjoying some of your videos. I can honestly empathize with a lot of them and feel compelled to share my story. I will begin by saying that mine is quite a bit different than most of the stories previously shared, but also in many ways it's the same. Your story is very similar, and yet very true, it is different. My story is also two stories that overlap. You won't find any scorned lovers in my story, but there will still be a failed and rocky relationships. For the sake of the story, you can call me Jack. I'm the eldest of two kids in my family, and I'm a bit younger than you. I was born in the 80s, and my sister, who is 5 years my junior, was born in the 90s. Growing up for us was an epitome of the American middle-class home. Kind of. I'll circle back to this later in the story here. I'm a self-employed mechanic. I love what I do and take extreme pride in my work. That's awesome, bro. Congratulations on being in business for yourself. And of course, when you work for yourself, it's, it's time-consuming. It can be tiring, but it's very rewarding. He says, most days, I never feel like I'm actually working unless something goes very sideways, which does happen on occasion. The section of the field I'm in is a very niche, and many of the vehicles I work for carry price tags well into the six-figure range. In other words, your customers have money, and that means you have money. One of the downsides of working in a niche field is sometimes people have to move to where there's enough work. 10 years ago, I was in that situation. The market for vehicles I worked on was drying up where I lived, and I was in the position of possibly choosing to switch fields or moving to where the work was. At this time, I was still young, didn't really have anything as much as roots, and was single, and also didn't really care much about the state I was living in. It made it a fairly easy decision for me, and I chose to move. I was still growing my skills and looking to be an employee. He says technically a subcontractor. Somewhere new. I found a new job and started making preparations to move. In August 2014, I landed in my new home. I have to say, I still love it here, and even though it's changed quite a bit since I first landed, it's what I now call home. I can actually tell you that the amazing people have adopted me as one of their own and don't consider me to be one of the types of people who are from where I'm from, if you catch my drift. But anyway, I spent my first year assimilating and taking in all the local traditions and things to do while also doing some casual dating, but nothing really serious. Due to my childhood, I've always played things of a personal matter very close to my chest and keep most everybody at arm's distance. Sounds like me. This was at least until I met, let's call her Jenny. I really lucked out when I moved here because I initially moved into this kind of condo townhome complex that had a very healthy mix of people of all ages, and we had regular impromptu block parties where one person would pull a barbecue out of the garage, and the next thing you knew, 4 more came out. People started coming with tall drinks and side dishes, and we just got together and had a great time. Well, that is rare nowadays, let me tell you. My neighborhood is a little bit like that. I'm already friends with a bunch of my neighbors. It's very nice. So that's where I met Jenny. She was the sister of one of my neighbors and had tagged along to one of our famous gatherings. Now, I still can't explain it, but Jenny had a truly bizarre and amazing effect on me that I never experienced before or since for that matter. Well, most of us have had a Jenny in our lives that we've met. That had amazing, we clicked with, we found attractive, that type of thing. The problem is that most of us are unaware to handle the Jennies that pop into our lives the first time because we're young and inexperienced, and the whole thing goes to hell in a handbasket. But that's how we learn. Somehow my guard came completely down with her. Ding, ding, ding. What was I just saying? Just like that, almost instantly, she was a good, mostly conservative gal. Mostly conservative. And not slutty in any way, if that's what you're thinking. It wasn't like that. More along the lines of a softness, of gentleness that could turn a granite rock into jello. But she was also very direct in anything she said or did. We spent a lot of time together that evening, and later on in the night, there was a long kiss or two, but it stopped there, and she went home with her sister and brother-in-law's house. We went on a handful of proper dates over the next several months, and they were always good, but I wouldn't say there was anything noteworthy worth remembering until about 6 months in. Wow, so you definitely took your time with her. 6 months in, when she showed up to my house randomly one evening, bawling when her sister and brother-in-law were out of town. Uh-oh. The exact details I'm likely going to screw up at this point, but apparently she had gone to dinner with a platonic male friend of hers, and somehow the topic of her came up, and he had basically told her she was a hot mess and needed to get her life together. Okay, hot mess. Get her life together. This is a platonic friend, and she showed up at your house bawling her eyes out. Yeah, there's a red flag there. She had spoke of this friend to me before, and I knew him to be platonic friends of hers. Well, if you were serious, I'm not for hanging out with other dudes. Not that it mattered, because we weren't exclusive or anything at this point. Okay, there you go. She had known this friend since high school, and I'm fairly certain he was more interested in the other sister that was not my neighbor than her, and they were just friends. Anyway, I didn't care at this point, but perhaps this was the first red flag, even though I never seen any signs of what the friend had insinuated. Well, remember, guys, you got to pay attention to these things, you know? And I know how this story goes, and that was something definitely worth paying attention to. This night was the first time we had ever spent the full night together. A few months later, we were exclusive, and I had the pleasure of meeting her parents and the rest of her immediate family and grandparents. It was a major cold weather holiday, and both her parents had a deep southern draw. Not from our area, though. And he was wearing what appeared to be both a silk Jimmy Buffett bottom-up shirt with flip-flops. So he's that guy, huh? The parents, both of them, had very big personalities, and I adored them. They were all a rather large mixed family, but you could tell immediately that they were all very close, something that really drew me in. Well, that's awesome. And, gentlemen, you're going to see this guy. While her family had a big, happy, warm, welcoming family, which is always great when you're dating someone like that, or in a relationship with someone like that, this guy comes from the exact opposite, which you're going to find out real soon, which will explain why he was drawn into them. Within a year, I'd asked her to move in with me, and we had a big discussion before it happened. Smack! A year? Are you nuts? Way too soon. But remember, guys, her family and the warmth of them is a big draw to this guy. And that's why a lot of guys rush to get married or rush into relationships, because their family life was shit. So they're trying to make up for what they lacked in childhood, which is, you got to be careful not to do. We had a big discussion before it happened. Dreams, aspirations, family baggage, etc., etc. Things were good for a long time. She had met my parents that live out of state, talked to my sister from time to time on the phone, and we regularly spent the night together at her parents' house when they had big family gatherings, which happened pretty regularly, and I was treated like a full-blown member of the family, which meant a lot to me. After some time, I was ready to get out of my rented townhome and was looking to buy a house. If you recall, I'm fully self-employed, and even at the time, I was still acting as a subcontractor and was very much still self-employed as far as the banks were concerned. Now we're getting to a tricky area. Banks like to see you have a very steady employment and employment history. So as a self-employed guy, roadblocks are coming because you obviously have been working for yourself too long, or the whole subcontractor thing made them nervous. It didn't matter that I had the money for a down payment or good credit, or even that my current rent was more than the mortgage would have been. I couldn't qualify for even a modest mortgage because of my taxable income and needed a cosigner because of my tax filing situation. Something my parents promised would not be a problem. Oh, your parents were offering to help out. That's very nice of them. But watch this. Two things started happening nearly simultaneously on opposite ends of my personal life. Jenny has started remembering some very disturbing, repressed memories from her childhood, and my sister had fallen off the wagon again. Jenny, huh? Repressed memories from childhood. Disturbing ones. Remember her meeting with her platonic friend who knew her from childhood about her being a hot mess and everything? Guys, there are a lot of gals out there that have no fault of their own, very bad childhoods. Awful things happen. I don't need to elaborate. You can all use your imagination. And it's not these girls' faults or the kids' faults, and it's terrible. But the problem is these things usually carry into adulthood and can impact you and your sanity and your happiness in your life. And you can't be that guy that's going to be the savior. Because we know what happens to the White Knights. It's unfortunate. A little foreshadowing here. And now his sister's in the mix. And his sister, he says, fallen off the wagon again. In other words, she's got substance abuse problems. One of those. He says, yeah, my family baggage is getting ready to make its debut into our story here. I won't go too far into the details of Jenny's memories, but she was a very young gal when it happened and involved respected male members of the family's church long before they had moved to our current area. Oh boy. Again, not Jenny's fault. No other details need to be shared, but it did confirm a feeling I sometimes got from odd comments that she would sometimes make at random. Jenny was never the same after these memories started popping out. I'll be honest and say that it did put a serious strain on our relationship. However, I was already committed and it was in for the long haul. I already had the ring and was setting up some life items, getting ready for the big question. He says, i.e. the house. Jenny knew about the house stuff, but never let on about knowing anything about the ring, nor did I tell her. So, she's got issues. And you haven't been together all that long. But I know the reason you're popping the question and all that, because the main reason is because of her family. Because you obviously didn't have that, as we're about to see. It's not the choice to go, guys, and you need to know her way longer, man. I did decide that I wanted to wait on popping the question until she had found a way to get into a good headspace. Good. Very smart. But guess what? That's not going to happen. I don't know where I heard or read it, but somebody somewhere once said to never use an engagement ring to fix an issue in a relationship. I was beginning to worry about her and started expressing my concerns to her more regularly. Now enter the house situation and my family baggage. I found a nice house on nearly an acre of land with a big fenced-in yard with mature oak trees. That was in my budget, and with a pre-approval letter from the bank. Offered $5,000 above asking price, and it was accepted. Awesome. This is when my parents informed me that they could no longer co-sign for me because they were buying a house for my twice off the wagon sister to help give her another fresh start. No co-signing for her, not helping her get an apartment, buying her the house outright in cash. Are you fucking kidding me? Your parents said they would co-sign, help you. You went through the whole process. You got the pre-approval letter from the bank. You made an offer, found the place. I know that's very time-consuming. And boom, they're backing out of this deal. What the fuck for your sister, who's now been twice in rehab? Your sister who's obviously a fuck-up? Yeah, oh, thanks, Mom and Dad, you fucking assholes. They're rewarding her bad behavior. Now, but guys, I guess you can probably figure out at this point that this guy is the second-class citizen of the family. The sister, who is the forever screw-up, gets the royalty treatment from Mom and Dad, and therefore, she's a consistent screw-up. Meanwhile, our guy here has to constantly take care of himself. This was one of the latest in a long line of extreme favoritism within my family. Another major one was my school loans for my education for my line of work. It wasn't that I was expected to pay it my own way. It was that I was told when I was still in high school not to worry about it, and they would cover the whole cost. Until a bit later, I was informed that I would need to start paying my loans because they weren't going to anymore. He says 2 + 2 = 4, and simple math suggested to me that money was going to pay off loans for my sister's unfinished credits and also for her first stint in rehab. So back-to-back, 2 instances when the parents said they would help him. He wasn't demanding it or expecting it, and they pulled away to help the sister, who, guess what? Gentlemen, this is an example of our society. The people that do things right, they get punished, and the people that are screw-ups, well, all the money, the taxpayer money, goes to them to making things better for them, and guess what? They keep up with their bad behavior. It can happen in families and on the greater scheme of things. Yeah, I'm talking about, and you all know what I'm talking about. It's bullshit. And all this stuff has enabled their behavior. Your sister's a fucking asshole, and we're just getting started on the sister here, and his parents are assholes. I have to wonder if this guy here is, his father's son. I would have been fine paying for my own schooling, going, not for their BS promises. I handled the loans and paid them off on my own shortly after meeting Jenny, but it took me years and some serious rebudgeting my life. I was very much the forgotten child growing up. My sister was always rewarded for her bad behavior, while I seemed to always be punished for my good behavior. Again, look at our society. Look how society works. And your sister just gets worse and worse and worse. But all this bullshit just makes you stronger. Guys, he wasn't being entitled and expecting things, and some of you guys are interpreting it this way, is they told him they would take care of this, take care of that, and then backed away and gave it to his sister, who is the fuck-up child. He has reason to take issue with this, in case some of you guys, and there's always someone or someone that don't quite get what I'm getting at in these stories here. But, you know what? The silver lining is it's taught you self-reliance. Make things happen for yourself. Anyhow, sister was always rewarded for her bad behavior. I'm not claiming to be a perfect kid, but I was pretty good. I kind of learned to never share my wants or needs after a while, because I would ultimately always be let down by them. Every time I would let my guard down, it would come back to bite me. I blew up on my parents. Not only did they crawfish on yet another promise they made to me, but they also allowed me to thoroughly embarrass myself, not to mention the continued enabling of my sister and the very apparent one-sided favoritism they were playing. These were all the things I had brought up before with them, but this was the first time I blew up on them. I quit talking to them that day, as well as my sister. I don't blame you. I wouldn't talk to them either for a while, you know? And again, they were going to co-sign. They weren't going to give him money. They were just going to co-sign so he could get the fucking house. You know what I mean? That was it. He wasn't getting one penny from them, to make that clear. And again, they're giving all this stuff to the sister. And let me tell you guys, you're really going to hate the sister eventually. And the sister, again, back in rehab, is a fuck-up. I have a family member, and I mentioned this in videos before. Maybe you guys, some of you heard this, who I'm very close to, who has a lifetime of substance abuse problems. In and out of rehab many a time. Offing oneself attempts. Bringing the family in constant turmoil roller coaster over the years. I have no sympathy for drug addicts, drug users, alcoholics, those that put themselves in situations that can harm people, all those things. None. I'm as far as away of a bleeding heart as you can get. So I can understand this guy's disdain for his sister and no doubt in general people like that. This is why I hardly ever drink and certainly don't use drugs. I quit talking to him that day, as well as my sister. I often wonder if my stresses with the situation with Jenny led to that blow-up. But I still feel like I would do it today if it were to happen again. Dude, you have every right to. They need to hear it. They treat you like a second-class citizen. You're like fucking Harry Potter living underneath the stairs, and that you all know what I'm talking about. Those of you who watch Harry Potter know what I'm talking about there. Months later, Jenny somehow got me to start talking to my parents again. I don't know how, but I'm sure her charismatic directness and ability to turn rocks to jello has something to do with it. My sister was a hard no at this point, though. This once again growing conflict within my own family put more stress on me and Jenny's relationship. It wasn't very long after that Jenny blindsided me one morning. Oh boy, what's she going to blindside you with? She told me that she didn't think we should get married. What? After all this? I was a good person, but she was leaving. It was as simple and short as that. I still have internal debates with myself on if it was my relationship with my family at the time. The couple rather large disagreements we were working through, like kids and adoption or religious differences, all stuff we discussed before moving in together. But she was either having a change of heart or trying to push me away. Or was it me pushing her to get help for her memories? Was she trying to save me from herself? I honestly don't know. So, just like that. It's like Forrest Gump. And Forrest Gump was like, and just like that, she was gone. Yeah, you got yourself a fucking Jenny here. Damage past, and just like that, kicking you to the curb. Like you meant nothing. How many guys been in that situation? The damaged girl, dude. This is why you don't white knight. This is why you don't try to save them, because they're fucked up. And usually these types think they're worth nothing. So they sabotage things and spend time with people that are effed up and treat them the way they think they are. Yeah, this guy's having a pretty bad fucking year. I debated for a while if she should have filled her sisters and her dad on all her troubles she was dealing with. I know he knew about them, the memories. He was not aware of what that happened at the time, but I do not think he realized the severity of her turmoil. I do not know if her sisters knew anything or not. I ultimately decided against it, justifying that since she was pushing me out of her life, that it was no longer my place. Well, people can debate and argue both sides of it, but at the end of the day, yeah, she pushed you away, threw you away like nothing. Look at all the things this guy was enduring for her, and she threw away like nothing. So you know what? Not my problem. But gentlemen, you can see, because of the situation with his family, why he was so drawn to her, probably because less about her, but because of her family. He felt truly appreciated and welcome and equal. That happens to a lot of guys. So this is why, gentlemen, you relationship types, don't rush into getting with a girl just because her family offers something your family did not. So I fell into a dark place for a little while. No one can blame you, dude. I had essentially lost all the people I considered a better family to me than my own family overnight. It's not that they didn't reach out to me, but I told them that we couldn't have a relationship right now without also hurting Jenny, and I didn't want to do that. I buried myself in work for a while, rented a house on the lake, and bought and restored one of those expensive type of vehicles I work on. There were many good days, but there were all honestly a lot of bad days for me as well. It was what it was, and I was coping the best way I knew how. That which does not kill you makes you stronger. So I want you to appreciate this, guys. He basically has no family from the family he grew up in, because his sister's a piece of garbage. Her parents are assholes. They're unreliable. They disappoint him constantly. Now he lost the girl they thought he was going to marry. Lost her family he grew close with. The guy's alone. But he keeps pushing on. That which does not kill you makes you stronger. Everything was cruising along for a while. I started lightly dating again. I even started spending time with Jenny's brother-in-laws again. It wasn't very often, but we generally avoided the topic of Jenny, except for the standard, how's everybody's doing type of thing. One day they informed me that Jenny was getting married, and I got the impression none of the family was a fan of him. As it later turned out, he was abusive and was otherwise not very good to her. And the marriage was the beginning of a very fast and sad downward spiral. So she pushes you away, throws you to the side of the road like a piece of garbage, and now she's getting together with a guy who the family says is abusive and basically a piece of garbage. What I tell you guys about getting involved with the girls in the damaged past, they think they're garbage. Therefore, if you're good to them, they think, this guy must be crazy, treating me like a human being. And then they'll dump you and go with a guy, or cheat with a guy and go with a guy that treats them exactly how they feel about themselves, like shit. So don't white knight. Don't be that guy. You're going to be disappointed. I'm telling you here. And you don't. And there's a point you don't feel bad for those types, even though you're naturally inclined to. Jenny drank herself to death a little over 2 years ago. Whoa. My man, you dodged a big one. One can argue she did you a favor. The last time I saw her was at the hospital, and her mind was already mush, and she didn't know who I was. Truly heartbreaking. I met the shitbag at her service. I even somehow found the strength to tell him I was sorry for his loss. You'd probably have to ask others who were there, but I may have been balling up a fist and not realizing it. In hindsight, it was probably a good thing that he didn't know who I was, though he may have wondered. Damn, dude. Jenny was fucked up. She had her qualities that were good, but everything was buried deep down, and boom, they came out. Again, you dodged a big one with her, but again, whether she was doing you a favor and realizing she'd mess up your life, or she was just throwing you away like a piece of garbage because you were too good for her, that type of thing. But at the end of the day, what happened in her childhood and messed her up as an adult, What happened in her childhood wasn't her fault, but the way she handled things as an adult, that's on her. End of story. I bet you maybe forgot that that was the. I bet maybe you thought that was the end of the story. Well, fast forward 6 months. I get a random call informing me that my sister has given birth to a baby girl. Your piece of trash, drug addict, in and out of rehab sister just gave birth. You talk about people that shouldn't breed. Mind you, I've not spoken to my sister since losing that house I was trying to buy. Years have passed at that point. I was informed that the state had removed the baby from my sister's custody due to the presence of meth present in the bloodstreams at the time of the birth. Oh my God, that poor baby. Your sister's a piece of fucking shit. Again, I have no sympathy for drug addicts, drug users, people like that. None. I'm not going to say here on camera what I think should be done with those types. Yeah, that's how, because I've been there, seeing those types. Yeah, very motivational for Thanksgiving, but I am who I am. And now this baby's brought into the world by this piece of shit with meth in the bloodline. She was born underweight and showing withdrawal symptoms. It became very apparent to me that if I did not take her, my niece was going to end up in foster care. My niece spent a month in the NICU, but I flew to the city where my niece was born and made sure I was there when she was released so that she would not have to spend a single day in the foster system. I also had to stay in the area for quite some time while CPS, Child Protective Services, made all their reports. Wow, dude. You're taking on a hell of a lot, my man. Not only are you taking on a baby that because of her piece of crap parent, your sister, has problems because, no doubt was born addicted to drugs, and also your sister's child. And now you're going to be dealing with her and all the drama there. You didn't have to do that. And it shows that you are a kind man, in spite of everything you went through. Nobody would have faulted you if you didn't do that. The baby could have been adopted into a great family. I have a cousin. She adopted a little boy. She and her husband adopted a little boy just like this. Ultimately, with power of attorney from my sister that she knew was her only chance of being able to be in her daughter's life, CPS eventually released my niece to me and to take back home. So here I am, nearly 2 years later, a single dad to my almost 2-year-old niece. My sister has done her damnedest to get me to just turn my niece back over to her, and has also tried to turn some family members against me. No good deed goes unpunished, man. I'm sure you know going into this that this is what you're going to be dealing with. There is no way your sister should have anything to do with this child. None. I don't know. Again, every state is different in the laws of the land, but full custody for you, and she, you know what I mean? Of course, your sister doesn't care about the child. She just wants to screw you. Period. However, I did tell her from the very beginning that she was going to have to earn my trust and that she would be held accountable to the highest degree, that I had no intentions of making it easy for her. How about no easy for her? How about she has nothing to do with you or this child, unless, of course, the state, because their wacky rules, make it that you have to send pictures and she gets to see the kid from time to time or whatever the fuck it is. But if that's not the case, no way. It was going to be hard work. I also warned both my parents that unless they wanted to take my niece themselves, if I were to do this, they could either get on my side or they could bud the fuck out. I made abundantly clear that our future relationships and that theirs with their only grandchild will be on the line if they later decide to cross me in this matter. Well, good for you for laying down the law. He says, my parents, they are now separated and they weren't at the beginning of the story. Your parents split up. How funny. My dad has pretty much backed my every move. My mom has waffled a couple times and has had to be sternly reminded once or twice, but quickly fell back into line. Well, the reason you put your dad in his place in line is because your dad's fucking weak. You're stronger, more of a man than your dad. And I bet you a lot of the reasons the things went down is because your mom was pushing it. And I have to strongly question whether you are your dad's real son. No offense. Fortunately, I live in a state that does not automatically assume the mother to be the best situation for the child. So when my sister started going back on her commitments to me, including regular drug testing, I took steps and now have a court order that enforces them. Well, that's good, but I still say, why does your sister have anything involved with this kid at all? Really? That court order also gave me full custody. Awesome. It cost me a lot of money, but it was worth every penny. Dude, you are a saint. You didn't have to do this. Really. You know, your niece could have been adopted by a good family, hopefully, you know, and you could have lived your life, but you still took this little girl in and fought this uphill battle. My hat is off to you, sir. And that little girl, I hope, will love you to her dying day. I'd actually offered my sister a pretty open visitation. My sister lives halfway across the country, but she flat out turned it down, thinking the court would give her full custody because she had an ace in the hole. What was the ace? When I first started the court process, she went and secretly got pregnant again. Your sister, again, your piece of shit sister is bringing another child in this world. Again, this is what happens all the time. You guys seen this coming a mile away. Thanks, Mom and Dad, for enabling her behavior at a young age, and just here we are with the sister. She kept this secret from my entire family, at least as far as I know. She had given birth less than 2 weeks before the court hearing. Sadly, there's nothing I can do about the new child, as that one was born outside the jurisdiction of anything I was a part of. What I can be sure, though, is that the child was born drug-free, and that has been a hard condition I've been enforcing upon my sister and my niece's father. Well, thank God that baby is born drug-free. Well, the female judge, in my very liberal city, mind you, threw the book at my sister. Wonderful. The judge, knowing the terms that had already been offered and rejected, handed down more strict and more limiting terms in addition to chewing her ass out. It was a nice way, but it was still an ass chewing. I'm now the one forcefully breaking my sister's bad habits and also having to teach her all the hard lessons that my parents neglected to, now with the help of the court order. Well, good. I'm glad. But still, your sister should have... Dude, I don't know the whole situation, but if it's possible that you can have nothing to do with your sister, and you literally have the full say, because you said you have full custody, that your sister could never see this child, then do it. Because eventually your sister is going to, fall back on the wagon, fall off the wagon, and there's going to be bullshit. Period. But I don't know the whole story. The irony is not lost on me that one of the major issues between Jenny and I was the issue of adoption, and how I had told her absolutely not if she was not willing to at least try for kids of her own first. My niece also shared the same obscure middle name as Jenny. I took no part in her naming. My sister is back in my life, although in a very probational manner. I'm not sure if dating is in the cards for me or the future or not. I'm not against it, but I'm also not actively seeking it, not to mention I can be picky and move about as fast as molasses with women anymore. Bro, your top priority, now that you adopted this beautiful baby girl, and you are a saint for doing that for this girl, giving her the stability and rock that this little girl needs, she's your top priority, as well as your business and taking care of things, and you're always on your guard against your fucking family, your asshole parents, and your fucking piece of dog shit sister. I still see Jenny's sisters and brother-in-laws from time to time. The ones that used to be my neighbors now live back east and have 2 beautiful kids themselves. The others also moved away but are still within a few hours of me. They also have a beautiful little girl. He says, it has been an interesting 10 years. Thank you, Jack. Well, guys, like I told you, this was a difficult one to describe, but like I told you, this is an example of a guy who's had his share of roadblocks and hardships. Now, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of people that have way harder roadblocks and hardships. But growing up where you're a second-class citizen with your family and being constantly let down, that does something to someone. But this guy still persevered, and all that led him to be very self-reliant and be the man that all men should be, a leader, that type of thing. And in spite of all the shit what happened with Jenny, and he dodged a big one there, let me tell you, and the lessons he learned. And now onto the sister, this guy's a good man and took in the niece. And he didn't have to do that, Nobody would have thought the less of him for doing that, Well, some people would, but anyhow. So, guys, this goes to show you we all strive to be. We all go through hardships. We all go through disappointments. We keep on pushing, keep on grinding, and that makes us who we are. That makes us strong, successful men, strong, successful males. And the fact that he didn't turn into a fucking asshole. This is everything. So, sir, my hat is off to you. Happy Thanksgiving. I wish all the best for you and the beautiful little girl you adopted. And, frankly, like I said, if there's a way you can have it that your sister has nothing to do with her again, please make that happen, because your sister's going to fuck up again. It is only a matter of time, And I want that little girl having to be exposed to that. But, sir, I wish you absolutely all the best. Congratulations. Let me know down the road how you're doing, and I wish you all the best, because you deserve many good things coming your way. So, All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Give this guy a shout out. Give him some love for what he's done for this little girl, and give him some support. If any of you parents out there can offer some advice, definitely send it your way. And maybe any of you been in a situation. What the fuck? Drag racing on Thanksgiving. I know I don't film in the spot here. What the hell was I saying? Well, anyhow, any of you guys out there that are in a situation like this that you adopted a great kid and had to fight with the family members and all that, if you can share some info about that to help this guy out, I'd really appreciate that. And be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.